Stephen Hayes. Welcome to the Marriage Challenge podcast, brought to you by Care for the Family. In this episode, we are joined by David and Caris Baker, who are going to talk about the importance of keeping unity in their relationship and how to deal with discord. But before we get into that, let me introduce them. David and Caris have been married for 11 years. David is a pastor of a large church, and Caris is a teacher. They currently have 2 young children, with another one on the way. David and Caris, welcome. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you.
Okay, well, first of all, how did you guys meet and end up getting married?
Well, we met at a Christian festival, camping in Somerset. I was just walking around with some friends. Someone got chatting to us, invited us for free hot chocolate. Ended up going back to this marquee where Caris was overseeing some youth there, and we were introduced because we were both interested in drama. We had some conversations, chatted over the following week, and then kept in touch.
And then I was just starting at uni in Cambridge, and David was in a theatre company, so we had this long distance relationship between Manchester and Cambridge for 3 years, travelling back and forth, which was a bit of a challenge.
Great, well, let's look at the topic for today, which is striving to keep discord out of your relationship. So perhaps just tell us why that's such an important thing for you, and perhaps even discord, like how do you define that in your relationship? What's that look like?
I think discord is just those little niggles that can come in and start just chipping away at your kind of togetherness and your kind of fighting for each other, I suppose, and wanting the best for each other. Just the little things, the day-to-day irritations perhaps that just mean that you're not quite functioning in the best way that you could.
Mm-hmm. And we notice it, so it can be subtle, but we notice it after a while. Hang on a minute, we're being really grumpy with each other again. Why is that? What came in?
So early on in your marriage, was this something that you spotted, that you kind of realised was happening regularly, and perhaps what was the cause behind it?
Yeah, I think it was probably something that I noticed. First, we both come from different families, different backgrounds. I came from a northern family, a bit brasher, a bit more banter, a bit harsher in some ways. And Caris is from quite a family that were quite careful about how they spoke. So me coming into that environment was quite strange. Suddenly I found we'd be hanging out together with their family, and I thought I'd been really funny. I thought it was going really well. It was a really great environment, and I'd said enough funny things to keep feeding my ego. And then we'd get into the car afterwards, and Caris would be disappointed and annoyed at me, and I'm like, oh, what's going on? And actually just learning, the way that I speak around people, the way that I interact impacts Caris and impacts what we share together. And so learning what are those points or moments where I cause pain or I don't value what Caris values that then causes that discord. Yeah.
And I think for me as well, though, it's thinking, the default being thinking well of each other, and so not assuming the worst, or like, saying, oh, he's always going to do that, he always does this, or those kind of always and never words. For example, David will say that he's going to be back at 5:30 and kind of communicate that to me, and so I'm ready, and it's kind of 5 o'clock, and I think it's half an hour he's going to be back, and then he's late, and then in my head I can just default to, oh my goodness, he's just always late, this is so frustrating, and that kind of sets my thinking in quite a negative way, so that when he gets back there's this kind of silent resentment going on, and rather than communicating to him or giving him space to even explain why he might have been late and what held him up, or just having that kind of silent chipping away and therefore creating a bit of a block or a disunity between us. So just making sure that those little niggles are kind of overcome, really, and dealt with well.
I guess you guys have had to get quite good at responding to when the other one shares something like that.
Yeah, I think it's just about having humility to go, actually, if I'm honest, rather than trying to win this argument in this moment, and it probably doesn't always happen like this, it takes some time to reflect, I'll go away and go, do you know what, actually, it's just about I've not communicated well. And so I kind of need to recognise that for her, so that she doesn't think, okay, well, we're not going to fight for that anymore, or we're giving up on that aspect of our relationship.
But there have been times, I have to say, when there's something pretty big or frustrating between us that we just can't get unity on. And in those moments, or there's conflict, big conflict. And in those moments, there's even been times where we've had to go to separate rooms and write down what we're feeling for each other, and then exchange our writings, and then go away and read, and then write back to each other. So when in those moments where actually talking together just creates so much stress and tension that it's not working, actually just being apart and writing, and so that your communication is happening but outside of that kind of fiery moment is quite helpful.
Which particularly helps internal processes like me, because actually it means I'm able to write down sometimes I'll write down the things that Karis is saying as she's saying them, just so that I can listen, because otherwise I've lost the things that she's saying and I can't respond well. So I find it helpful sometimes if it is one of those heightened areas of conflict, for us just to write and take a bit more time over it.
That's great. Super practical as well. So are there any other things you've put into place, so whether it be set times of discussion or anything of that ilk?
Yeah, definitely, especially with younger children. It's fine saying all these things, if you haven't, before having kids, it's much easier to have these conversations and things, but actually now having children, you can't just stop everything and have these really deep and meaningful conversations to try and connect together. No, it just doesn't work. So I think that, but it is important to have those spaces. So one thing that we try and do is sofa time, which is where, and we're just beginning this, so don't think that we do this all the time, but it's where, the children are in a settled place, maybe playing, and we have 10 minutes, 15 minutes just to catch up a little bit on the sofa, so the children know this is our sofa time, so when we're talking. So that can be a connection time. And then obviously we have date nights, which just, the time set aside. And then we also have life nights. So date night is where we because we found that our date night was becoming consumed by decision making or admin stuff. So then we had this life night, which was more for administration and talking through niggly things or whatever. So.
Yeah, or decisions that were causing conflict or that we weren't resolved on. Things like that. But I do think the reality is, I think since we first got married, the time that is left, the kind of gap, the vacuum between those moments when we do get time to recognise when there's discord creeping in, I think that has increased. So we get less opportunities with two youngsters to sit down and just talk through and go, do you know what, actually I feel like stuff's deteriorated a bit here, or we've gone on too long just starting to chip at each other. Why are we being really grumpy with each other? It's because actually we've not spent enough time together. I think early on in our marriage we'd get to moments where we were really being grumpy and we're like, do we not even like each other? Maybe we need to spend less time with each other. But the reality was, it was because we needed to spend more time with each other, more focused time, and hear each other out. And then we're like, okay, we do like each other. We just got some stew. We just picked up some mess.
Yeah.
That's great. That's really helpful. Especially the life night. That's another amazing tip. Admin and romance aren't always the best.
They don't always mix well.
It didn't work for us.
So for some people, perhaps. Well, I'm sure there's people listening to this who can really relate to what you guys have said. What advice would you give to others who perhaps struggle with keeping that unity in their relationships?
I think just being able to recognise it, and it does take a real vulnerability and humility to go, do you know, I want this relationship to work, I want this marriage to work, and we've got really grumpy with each other, and we've picked up some stuff. We went on a walk a couple of days ago, and it's winter time, it's muddy, and our boots pick up a whole load of stuff just because we're walking out together. And I think it is just having mental kind of doormats moments where you just go, do you know what, we just need to wipe some of this stuff off. And so I think having that as an idea, because that might prompt you every time you come into a home, what am I bringing in from my day that I've picked up that's been unhelpful, or where am I annoyed, where am I sad or disappointed, and what do I need to wipe off here, or where am I holding a grudge against Karis that actually I need to deal with. So it is about marking times and going, okay, let's decide we haven't done this before, but let's decide that we're gonna have one night a week to start with, and maybe it then goes to once a month for more of a solid time or whatever, where we're just going to talk about, do you know what, I feel disappointed that you don't do this for me anymore. You used to make me a cup of tea in the morning. Actually, just having the conversations and trying to dig underneath the daily irritations and interactions and bittiness, and go, okay, what's underneath that? Why have you stopped caring in that way? Or yeah.
So, David and Caris, thank you so much for everything you've shared with us. It's been great. So before we finish, in every episode, we ask our guest couple to give us a marriage challenge, so something practical that couples can try out in the coming weeks. So is there anything that you would suggest?
Yeah, I think trying to hone in on one particular thing that you would recognise has deteriorated in the way that you relate with each other. So one of the things that we've done in the past is gone away separately and tried to figure out what it is that we want to say sorry to the other person for, or what is it that I've done that come in and cause discord. So then you come together then and say, hey, I want to say that I'm sorry that I have not done da-da-da-da-da, or I'm sorry that I've allowed this to happen. I think the advantage of that is that rather than saying you did this or you did this, I want you to say sorry, it's you both go away, spend time separately and figure out what your sorry is and bring that to each other. And that has been a really rich thing for us.
Well, thank you so much for that. It's certainly something couples can try at home. So that's all for this episode. It just leaves me to say thank you to David and Caris for joining us.
Pleasure.
And we look forward to tackling another marriage challenge next time. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
You have been listening to the Marriage Challenge podcast. For further information about our courses, resources and events, visit us at www.careforthefamily.org.uk.